Hey everyone, welcome to Mountain Beast Mysteries. In today's video, I'm going to be going over my top 5 examples of what I consider to be the best Bigfoot evidence that has been gathered to date. Now, I'm sure I've missed certain examples of evidence, but of what I can remember off the top of my head, these are what I have come up with in my list. And I'm sure some of you would agree with the examples I have chosen. But anyways, before we get into it here, I have a quick message from our sponsor. This video is sponsored by the Ridge Wallet. The Ridge Wallet is a sleek, durable, minimalist wallet that is perfect for your everyday carry loadout. They make it in aluminum, carbon fiber, and titanium. I got mine in the aluminum version in OD green because I think it looks the coolest, and mine also has a money clip on it. However, because I hate having things in my pockets altogether, wearing out my pants, I actually just clip the Ridge Wallet right onto my belt and keep it out of the way, and it stays on there quite securely. The Ridge Wallet is RFID blocking, has a lifetime warranty, and can hold up to 12 cards. You need to get rid of that ugly folding leather dad wallet that's overflowing with cards and receipts and crap you don't need. You need to pick up a Ridge Wallet. If you go to ridge.com/mountainbeast and use promo code mountainbeast, you can get 10% off and free worldwide shipping. That's ridge.com/mountainbeast, promo code mountainbeast. There's a link down below in the description. So the best examples of Bigfoot evidence, in my opinion, we're going to save the best for last, and out of my top 5 list, we'll start off with the weakest, and then we'll go down to the strongest. So my number 5 is actually the Freeman footage. Now, a long time ago I made a video about the Freeman footage, and I was pretty skeptical about it. Just going off how I kind of felt Paul Freeman was behaving in the footage, I just got a weird feeling about it. But after looking into it more over the last few years and reading more about the situation and about the history of Paul Freeman, I think it's more than likely legit, the actual footage itself. And there's also a substantial amount of tracks that were cast in, his research areas. There's a really interesting story that is written about in Jeff Meldrum's book, Sasquatch, The Legend Meets Science, where Jeff Meldrum and another individual were making a surprise visit to Paul Freeman's place. Like, he didn't know they were coming, and they were going to interview him and figure out what exactly was going on. And so they randomly showed up there one day, and Paul Freeman was like, yeah, like, you guys seem pretty serious about this, there's actually a fresh set of tracks outside I can show you. So they're like, man, this is like a pretty crazy coincidence. Could it be possible that he somehow found out we were coming? But he didn't know. And just the fact that he had a fresh set of tracks outside without even knowing they were coming is pretty crazy. And after investigating the trackway, which was a substantial trackway, it was very long and showed incredible detail of foot anatomy that Jeff Meldrum could pick out, and there was actual evidence of like dermal ridges. They were very, very nice tracks. They were about 14 inches long, 5 inches wide. And it's just a crazy story. So when you hear stuff like that in association with the footage, it makes the footage more credible to me. And of course, like, the being itself in the footage is very much like Patty in the Patterson footage. It looks pretty good, despite it actually being shot in like standard definition, essentially on like a VHS tape. Like, it was shot on a cassette. So you're obviously going to get really poor quality in that sense. But it looks like a large Sasquatch creature, pretty much exactly how most cases describe the Sasquatch to be. And it, behaves in a way kind of similar to Patty. And it looks really promising. But that's my number 5. Now, moving on to number 4 is the Skookum cast. I've always thought the Skookum cast was a really great piece of evidence because, you're not just getting a cast of a footprint or of a handprint, but you're getting the cast of the whole body. Now, there's lots of people who will say the Skookum cast could easily just be another kind of animal lying there in the mud. A lot of people think it could be an elk,
that was lying in the mud. But with the Skookum cast evidence, the way it was captured was there was a pile of fruit left out in this muddy area. It's part of a BFRO investigation. They were doing this huge investigation. There was a TV crew there as well that was documenting things, and they had night vision, they had thermal, they had pheromone chips, they went all out, and they set up food traps, and they noticed that the one place the food was disturbed, and there was an imprint that looked very bizarre. It wasn't like footprints walking up to the food pile. It was as if the creature, if it was indeed a Sasquatch, was kind of crawling up and reaching towards the fruit in an attempt to not leave tracks, which is pretty crazy. If that is indeed what happened to this creature, well, we know it's intelligent already, but it's actively trying to cover its tracks and to reach the food pile without, leaving human-like, or I guess Sasquatch-like tracks. So that is very interesting, and it's been studied, the cast itself. The cast itself has been studied by all the top researchers in the Bigfoot world. Jeff Meldrum, John Bindernagel, Grover Krantz, everybody. And they even, because a lot of people suspected it was an elk, they actually cast a spot where a real bull elk had lied down, just to compare it to the Skookum cast, and it was nothing like the Skookum cast. I mean, the Skookum cast had, you could see Achilles heel impressions, you could see hair impressions, you could even see dermal ridges. It had everything. You could see the forearm, you could see the buttocks, you could see a lot of detail, and it is quite spectacular. In my opinion, it's one of the best pieces of trace evidence that has ever been recovered in the Bigfoot subject. So that comes in at number 4 on my list. I recommend, if you're wanting to see more information on the Skookum cast, you can find it all on YouTube. It's well documented. You can also find that as well in Jeff Meldrum's book, Sasquatch Legend Meets Science. Number 3 for me is the track cast that John Bindernagel cast back in the day. I think it was back in the 80s, I want to say. He was out on a hike on Vancouver Island, and he came across some Sasquatch tracks and was able to cast one. The interesting thing about the cast is that a hiker appears to have stepped in it, so inside the Sasquatch track there's actually the imprint of a hiking boot, and it gives you a size comparison. Now, I was actually fortunate enough, when John Bindernagel was still alive, to visit his home, and he showed me the original track cast. The original cast was actually broken and he had to repair it, but just seeing what is thought to be a legitimate Sasquatch track, you can look at pictures of Sasquatch tracks and it doesn't really give you a sense of how impressive they actually are until you actually see one in person and you're holding it in your hand. You're like, wow, this must be a massive, powerful creature to have left a track this length, this width, and with an impression, this deep. And it was captured by someone who is highly, highly, highly respected in the Bigfoot community. One of the nicest guys out there. The guy was a legend, John Bindernagel. So it's really cool that in his research he was able to come across a set of tracks like that. A very impressive track that could be cast, that's considered to be one of the best out there. So because it came from a source that is very, very credible, and by someone who has been actively studying Sasquatch pretty much his whole life, for me it's one of the best pieces of evidence out there. And that comes in at number 3. Number 2 in my list is the Sierra Sounds. Now, I've talked about the Sierra Sounds multiple times, and they're just the most bizarre thing I think that's ever been recorded as far as Bigfoot audio goes. It's been analyzed by, people who study language, people who study audio in general. It's been determined that it's, legitimate and couldn't have been faked. Now, I don't know, when they say it couldn't have been faked, I'm pretty sure anything can be faked, but I've talked to Ron Morehead before. and he seems to be a very trustworthy individual. There was multiple witnesses to experiencing these vocalizations. The Sierra sounds were captured in the Sierra Nevada mountains back in the early 70s, and multiple times after that. And these people would return to this camp, this hunting camp, every year, every few years or whatever. And multiple times they would run into these creatures. They would never actually see them. They'd be just in the distance. But, they would leave recorders out. Sometimes they'd leave recorders near the structure they were hiding out in. Like the hunters would hide out in this structure to try and stay safe. They would leave the recorders outside of there. Or sometimes they would set the recorders up further away to gather cleaner audio. But the Sierra sounds are just bizarre, and you can tell that whatever these things are, they're communicating in a language of some kind. So they have that much intelligence where they can actually talk to each other, and they have words and a vocabulary of some kind. Obviously, we don't know exactly what they're saying, but it's not just, noises and sounds like an animal would make, like a dog barking or something like that. It's an actual language. And, I have some examples of it here that I can play for you guys. So yeah, the Sierra sounds are very interesting. Not only did they record vocalizations and noises, but they also had experienced other strange phenomena at that site, such as like weird lights floating around, weird orbs, and other kind of strange paranormal phenomena. But if you want to know more about the Sierra sounds, if you want to know the whole story, if you want to actually have copies of the recordings, you can actually get them at Ron Morehead's website. He has them available as a digital download. And one of the audio files he has is actually narrated by Jonathan Frakes from Star Trek The Next Generation, which is really cool. So if you want to check that out, have a look at his website. I'll have a link down below in the description. So number one, in my opinion, in the best piece of Sasquatch evidence, this probably comes as no surprise to my subscribers, the Patterson-Gimlin footage from 1967, Bluff Creek. This has stood the test of time. Lots of people try and tell you that it's been debunked, and those are people who are not really educated on the Sasquatch topic. Just looking at it, you can tell, that's a real creature. We've never seen anything as good as that since then. And at the time, pretty much every other ape costume wouldn't come nearly as close to that quality. It looks like a Sasquatch. It looks like a real being. And, some people will still try and tell you they can see seams in the suit or zippers and stuff like that, but I don't think so. I mean, you can see a lot of muscle. If you watch the full clip and just slow it down and look closely at it, you can see a lot of muscle under there. And it moves in a way that looks totally realistic to me. Yeah, lots of people have come forward trying to say that they were the person in the suit. But, that's just people saying stuff. People say stuff all the time. You can't just take someone's word for it. Here, we're not just taking Roger Patterson or Bob Gimlin's word for it. We're actually seeing the video from that incident. Right? It's not just a story or an anecdote. There's visual evidence, and it happens to be the clearest visual evidence ever recorded of a Sasquatch being. But I've made other videos on the Patterson footage before. If you want to know more about it, you can go back in the database here at Mountain Beast Mysteries and watch those videos, or you can do some Googling and get more information on the case. There's so much information out there on this footage. And, go out and listen to it all, and then you can decide for yourself what you think of it, if you think it to be legit or not. I know a lot of you are in the same boat as me and believe it to be the best evidence ever recorded. and to this day it can't be disproven. But anyways, that's my list, my top 5 pieces of Bigfoot evidence that have been collected. And, if there's other good cases or pieces of evidence that I missed, put them down in the comments below. I would like to hear them. Like I said at the beginning of the video, I'm sure I missed something that is like very profound. I can just feel it already that I'm forgetting something. But yeah, that's the video. If you guys want to support Mountain Beast Mysteries or make a donation to the channel, support future videos and future expeditions, there's a link down below to the channel's GoFundMe page. You can make a donation there, or you can use the PayPal link on the main channel page. That's all I have for this video. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time at Mountain Beast Mysteries.